This is a new year.
Yeah.
We like to do new things, and sometimes that leads to us making mistakes.
Yeah.
Or boners, if you will.
Yes. Like the way that Batman trapped Joker into his
Famously,
boner.
yeah.
Into his boner? Batman's boner?
Yeah, right in there.
No. There's the Joker's boner.
That's the sound and the fury.
See, you just made a huge boner.
Yeah, you did.
You can see that boner from space.
It is notoriously huge.
Your boner? About Batman? Your Batman
Joker's boner, famously the biggest. The biggest he's ever pulled.
However, everyone continues to laugh at his gigantic boner.
Which they shouldn't.
But it's painted like a clown.
It's got the little.
It's there to make you laugh.
Is the slit like the mouth, so it has a little
Slit
lipstick
of what?
on it on the boner?
Slit? We're talking about boners here, not anything that has a slit on it.
Yeah, come on. What are we doing here?
This is a word that means mistake. That's what I've been saying this whole time.
Well, that's my boner then.
It certainly is.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast lousy with boners. I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm Popeye the Sailor, who is now public domain. And we're joined here by our special guest, Tintin.
That's
who is
right.
Also
that's so funny.
in the public
Lousy
domain.
with IP.
No, I'm the worst of all possible Joshes. And yeah, we are back. It's always
Brian.
Yeah, that's Brian. The worst of all possible Brians, in fact.
Yeah.
And
If you believed I was Popeye, you'd be making a real boner.
massive boner.
Huge boner.
We are a little slap happy, as you can tell, because
It's all these boners.
we got done not too long ago watching Left Behind, World at War, the third film in the original Kirk Cameron Left Behind trilogy.
Yes, the finale, right? This is the last one Kirk Cameron ever made.
Not intended to be a finale.
No.
They canceled it.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
got cancel culture.
Cancel culture finally came for Left Behind, yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, honestly.
It came just like a big boner.
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes mistakes just come to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Are all over
On
you. In you. So
Boners.
Yes, AJ?
So I don't want to derail things completely, like
That's not
immediately
true.
right
That's
off
not
the
true.
bat.
You
No,
don't
We
lie.
need
But
to
the
keep our
fact-
boners on the rails.
Oh God! but truly, the fact that this does not have a colon in the title drives me insane.
You need it because without a colon, then it's just a boner.
Then it's just a boner. It's literally Left Behind world at war.
That's my favorite Michael Crichton novel.
Left Behind world. This is also he's kind of a Michael Crichton novel.
It is.
It is,
It's a
yeah.
little Michael Crichton. It's
Less
a little
divorced,
bit,
but yeah.
24. And
It's
we will
Tom Clancy too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about all of those influences, but I think we should just frame up top the fact that for the last 3 years now, we have covered the Left Behind movies because
Because I couldn't get you to watch any of the Thief in the Night sequels.
yeah, well,
Even
you
the one set in
could.
Gallup, New Mexico.
You could. I just think that, it doesn't have our baby boy Kirk Cameron in it,
and he is a tiny baby.
but just to sort of recap where we've been so far.
yeah.
Yes.
We watched the first Left Behind movie, which was released not too long after the original book.
Right.
This was really in anticipation of the new millennium. It was
Yeah.
the Millennium, yes.
yeah, laying down a lot of really exciting Y2K paranoia about the impending New World Order and all that. And then last year, we watched Tribulation Force, which is based on the second book in the Left Behind series.
Yes.
And that was released in October 2002. So technically post 9/11, but to me, it doesn't really feel like a post 9/11 movie.
Right.
Whereas Left Behind, World at War is firmly in the wake of 9/11.
Oh, and
Yes.
which book is Left Behind World at War based on, Josh?
Well, that's a great question, Brian, because Left Behind, World at War is technically based on Tribulation Force as well, But the thing is,
Okay.
again, because neither of these two motherfuckers can read a book.
No.
I went ahead
My
and
boner gets in the way of me reading.
Just have to keep slapping it out of the way.
What are you talking about?
I don't know anymore.
he's illiterate.
Yeah, the big boner I made from never learning to read as a child.
Okay.
The thing about the book is that most of the plot contained within is in Tribulation Force.
Yeah.
There is almost nothing that they left out except for the bit about President Gerald Fitzhugh. Remember him?
No.
No, of course you don't.
Did he appear in the movies at all?
No.
With a different actor?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay,
No.
so this is just a brand new guy.
This is a new guy. And
I mean, it's the president.
It is
It's
the
just
president.
a new guy.
Yeah.
and so in the book, he is mostly portrayed as being just this kind of ineffectual guy, right?
Yeah.
He
goes along with the UN and with Nikolai Carpathia.
well, he gets
Right.
cucked by Nikolai Carpathia is a more accurate way of putting it.
literally.
No.
Damn it, that would have been great.
That would have
Yeah,
been great.
that
And it
would've
would
been
have
so good.
it would have been within the wheelhouse of Jerry Jenkins from all we know about him.
Yes.
But
A real boner on their part not to make that happen.
that is
Yeah.
so true, AJ.
Yeah.
But instead, because of the fact that Gerald Fitzhugh didn't get his time to shine in Tribulation Force, the movie, they decided to make him the entire centerpiece of this film, Left Behind World at War. But again, the problem is in the book, he doesn't really have any discernible characteristics or personality traits.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
they had to just invent a story.
Yeah, this is just a movie about President Gosset.
Yeah.
Who's played. He's Lou Gosset Jr.
Yes.
That's who's playing the president. Of the
Yes,
movie. So I'm
yes,
just
it
going
is.
to keep calling him President Gosset
Okay.
because there was no way I was going to remember Fitzhugh.
Gerald Fitzhugh is dead today after being eaten by wolves.
So is that like a combination of Gerald Ford and John Fitzgerald Kennedy?
I believe so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Hugh Beaumont, the dad from Leave It to Beaver.
Worth noting, by the way, and I do think it's interesting that they did cast Lou Gosset in this
Yeah.
because in the original book, he is definitely not black. Why don't we
Yes.
just take a second here before we get into the movie just to talk about, I guess, Lou Gosset Jr. and who he is? Because I think it's just worth throwing out there.
Yeah, it's certainly more interesting than any of the filmmakers or any other behind-the-scenes tidbits about this movie.
And
Yeah.
certainly more interesting than any of the other actors who have appeared in any of these films.
This is an
Right.
Oscar winner here. It's not
Yes.
just some Canadian, which makes up 90% of the cast, because this movie
or Kirk
is shot.
Cameron's wife.
This movie is shot entirely in Toronto and
Right.
surrounding area.
So no, yeah, he is a Broadway legend, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean-
screen and stage and everything. But the thing is, this is not his only hack, low budget Christian film. He made that shit all the way up until his death. It wasn't like Ed Asner needs his insurance, so he's going to do the Genesis Code.
Sure.
A movie I always go back to for some reason. But
Seminal film.
it's that Lou Gosset Jr. really wanted to make a Left Behind movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he does. And he turns in a really poor performance here.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta wonder if maybe they got Lou Gosset and said, oh shit, do we want to build the entire movie around him?
Like maybe this wasn't even, I mean,
Well, because apparently they did heavily rewrite the scripts.
Yeah,
I
and-
mean, there are like 5 screenwriters listed for
Right.
this movie.
yeah.
And
And
it was
not
like
one of them can write.
Yeah, it was
No.
like written, I think the first time they wrote was like 2003, and then they rewrote it in like 2005. This movie also came out in 2005.
Right.
Which tells you something about the turnaround that they had for this thing. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of CGI and post-production stuff in this too.
Yeah, they build the film around him, even though the character, they don't have a lot to work with because there isn't a lot there in the source text.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But also to your point, Brian, about like who he is, that there's this interesting tension, I guess, between his remarkable dramatic craft. I mean, we're talking here about a guy who was about to go play for the New York Knicks and decided to go on Broadway instead and originate the role
Those are
of
the two
George in A Raisin in the Sun.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. And here's the thing: there are moments in here where you kind of see that, right? There, are, like, and it's almost exclusively when he is not speaking and like staring
Yes.
off into the distance, and you're like, man, there is like a tempest happening in that man's brain.
Yeah.
Some of his political beliefs were also apparently pretty intense. He really loved RFK Jr., for instance.
huge fan.
Boy.
He loves
So-
the worms.
So that's fun. You're going to be hearing in these clips some really bad acting.
Yeah.
And I guess I just wanted to frame up the fact that this man is an actual treasure of the American theater.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, it's interesting that you say that like they didn't have a lot to work with in the book, and that is true because what they've done, they've made this character into Jack Ryan. They've made him into a Tom Clancy protagonist, right?
Yeah.
He is the president who has to get everything done because he is the most like morally pure president, except that he's not a Christian yet. But we'll fix that by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But like he's, when
Well,
you
he
elect
has to,
your
he has
daddy
to
in chief,
find that morality. They're not very good at giving him that first point.
yeah.
Where he's like, he's still just the cuck. And he's going along with Nikolai Carpathia for everything because his vice president has to sort of woke him.
Right.
And like, yeah, he has an arc in this, which is more, this is one of the weird things about this movie is like, there's more of a story here than there is in either of the other two.
Yeah.
And yet it feels like less happens.
Well,
Yes.
because it's like you have all the pieces, right? What this movie feels like is there's all the jigsaw puzzle pieces spread out before you, and they've just arranged them in the wrong order.
Yeah. It's like when you have those like dinosaur bones that were clearly put together wrong. And
Right,
It's like,
right.
what? No.
That
More
T-Rex
like a-
has 5 wings.
More like a dinosaur boner.
Nice.
It's a boner that they did.
You
Nice.
can get that on Etsy.
I'm really leaning into this because I couldn't figure out where to take the leather bar joke after this. I was like, I was going to do like this whole thing where it's like, and then, they take some files out of a briefcase and be like, what is this? A leather briefcase? Or what is this? A leather wallet? And I'm watching the whole fucking movie and there's nothing leather.
no leather.
What a shame.
There's no
In
things
this
that would
whole movie.
otherwise be leather except for ostensibly the Bible. So the only thing I came up, the only thing I was like, oh, what is this?
A leather Bible?
A poisoned leather-bound book?
Yeah.
I have so many questions about the poisoned Bibles in this.
We will get to the poisoned Bibles. Don't worry.
Oh, thank God.
I
We'll
want-
start poisoning them.
That's so
No!
true. We're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we're also going to poison your minds now,
That's
dear
right,
listener,
that's right.
by recapping Left Behind, World at War.
Left
And I-
Behind World at War.
That's right, AJ. And I do want to state up top for the record that this was one of the most difficult to outline plots I
Yeah.
have ever encountered. I think probably the
Truly.
most difficult outline. Like, I do the outlines for most of our episodes,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And
He's excellent at
it is one of those things where you can usually find the major beats to glom onto, and then it's like, okay, here's what they talk about here. Here's a thematic connection. I was able to do that pretty easily for the first half hour-ish,
Uh-huh,
and
right.
then it just descended into, I don't even know.
That's when I was pausing a lot. It was like it
Yeah.
took me about 3 hours to get through this movie
Me
taking
too.
notes
Yeah.
because I was just like, okay, what did I just
Yeah,
see?
like what is going on,
Like,
literally?
And again, like Left Behind 1, people get raptured, everyone sits around for a while, a car explodes, and then Nikolai shoots 2 guys.
Right.
That's the whole movie.
Yes.
That's it.
With like 5 praise songs in there. This movie, they couldn't afford the praise songs.
Sure couldn't.
And like that felt like it had a through line to it.
Yeah.
Like they needed the books to be
Yes.
able to make their story. And I think they just couldn't get the rights to the sequels and they were counting on that earlier, but maybe they just soured their relationship.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you were hypothesizing that before we
Yeah.
recorded, and I think you might be right because there's an entire subplot that we're going to talk about where they try to assassinate Nikolai Carpathia, and
Right.
like you were saying, that is the plot of the book Assassins, which is
Yeah.
I think what book 4 or 5 in the
something
series.
because
yeah, it's the musical book.
and in the book, yeah, it's called a libretto.
Yeah,
In the book, they kill him. He
Right.
dies
Yeah.
because then he comes back from the dead
Right.
as part of his
Right.
whole Antichrist thing.
Whereas in this movie, they're at the point in the plot where he can't die yet, according
Yeah.
to the lore of Left
because
Behind.
they have so many
Right.
more movies left to make.
They sure do. Well, hold on. If he's the Antichrist, wouldn't he be born dead and then become alive and then die again?
not in. Not,
like
I get it.
Like
Yeah,
a
that's
Benjamin
funny.
Button?
Yeah, like
No,
he's like he is born because Jesus is born alive, dies,
As
comes
most
back
are,
to life.
right.
So
it should
if
be
we
the other way
invert
around.
that, he'd
Yeah.
be born dead.
No,
become alive and then die again.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's open up Left Behind World at War here. It is
World at War.
We have once again our title card letting us know that this is a Cloud 10 picture.
It sure is. One more than Cloud 9,
still
baby.
remains one more than Cloud 9. The opening titles, after we get that, there's a fire. Oh, it's burning. A blazing
We open
inferno.
on the seventh seal.
My
it's
God.
in black and white, and then color slowly seeps in.
And Kirk Cameron is running around in this fire, and we then cut over to a man, and again, this is Lou Gosset Jr.
Yeah.
He's recording himself with a camcorder.
He's getting a lot of chin,
And
is what I'm going to say.
this
The
is what we
tiny
hear.
camcorder.
I was there when millions of people vanished off the face of the earth. But I didn't wake up. I cheered as the world came together in the name of peace. As race, politics, and religion no longer mattered. I should have known it was too good to be true.
Why is he talking like this?
It was.
Who is this
And when one
for?
single man rose to power to rule the entire world, I watched it all happen.
We can see Buck Williams, Kirk Cameron running through
Right.
like a burning house. There's like helicopters flying around.
Yes.
President's in the rubble.
Yeah.
Turned into a nightmare. And like that instant in a dream when you fall, that's when I should have sat bolt upright in my bed.
Oh, so true. But what happened?
But I didn't.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, AJ, you said earlier, who is this for? That's a good question
Yeah.
because he's recording into a camcorder. Presumably, people are going to see this, right? The second Left Behind movie ends with like the big public declaration that the Antichrist is not the Christ, but rather the Christ is the Christ.
Oh, right, yes.
Right, on national television or international television.
International, yeah. The one world government. And President Gosset just closes the camera in one of the weirdest movements I've ever seen.
Yep.
And this tape presumably goes nowhere.
No,
You
it's
never-
blown up with the rest of the, I'm just going to say it, horribly CGI'd White House.
Really, really bad.
This also looks like a Channel Awesome like asset, but like
Yeah,
he takes off his glasses very dramatically. Like you can tell, like in a different movie that is filmed better, everything that Lou Gosset Jr. is doing in this scene would be effective. But because the filmmaking is so poor, it looks like an amateur theater production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Like it's a nightmare.
I wouldn't say Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I'd say probably a different play than that.
No, just
'Cause
because
I
like the dramatic glasses taking off. That's all I'm talking about.
Because I don't remember the helicopters in the back of Who's Afraid of Virginia
Well, you haven't
Woolf.
fucking seen my production.
Yeah, you did not see Josh's college production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Starring Lou Gosset Jr. for some
Where
reason.
at the end, all the rights, all the rights. Where at the end, where at the end, all the lights turned red, and then it just dropped a banner at the back that said "Freedom for the Congo." That's a real story about a production I saw of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in college. Anyway,
In terms of exposition, this movie is showing President Gosset holding Global Community Weekly magazine,
Right.
and also Today Weekly magazine. In the one world government, every magazine is weekly.
honestly, you gotta admire the efficiency.
I do like the name Today Weekly.
Today Weekly is really funny.
And Today Weekly announces one world religion. They just did that by law. They're just like, everyone has one religion now.
I hate
What
it
is
when
that
that
religion?
happens.
Unspecified.
Unclear. I mean,
Yeah.
again, this is one where I think the books really have an edge because they install an entire false pope. Like, there's a
Right.
whole thing.
Oh,
and
That's
hell
actually
yeah.
interesting to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
and more interesting than anything we saw in any of these three movies.
oh, for sure.
And you know what you can't see is Lou Gosset Jr. getting up to look out the window because he is entirely in darkness.
Yes.
For what seems to be conservatively 35 seconds.
Yeah, this scene.
Because it's all bombed out. That's what it would look
You know
like.
what, you know,
Oh,
what-
I see,
you know what
I
it
see.
reminded me of this
Oh,
scene?
what?
Reminded me of a little game
Oh.
known as
Oh, which one?
Thief 2.
Because it was too dark. I was gonna say it reminded me of Call of Duty
Oh, yeah?
because
Kind
of
of, yeah.
DC getting attacked. Whichever one we played, the one with the Roman numerals.
Right.
It's funny too because like you would actually expect a Call of Duty game to open with the president on a camcorder, like filming himself saying, you know, the White House is down, and then you have to go and save him and infiltrate and everything.
Yeah.
But we don't get anything nearly that interesting here.
No, we cut back in time by a week.
Yes, and infuriatingly, the 1 week
At war.
the 1 week earlier,
Yeah,
font is the same as the rest of the credits, and it's not capitalized, so it looks like 1 week later is the name of an actor in the film.
You kind of
I missed
don't
it.
pay attention
I missed it
to
entirely.
Yeah.
We are now in a warehouse. The warehouse is distributing contraband of some sort, it seems.
Yeah, we got people in their ski masks taking crates,
Ooh,
and the globalism police are killing them.
That's right. Globo Homo shows up in the warehouse and just fucking starts blasting, right? This is very 24 coded, I would say.
Yeah.
And it turns out, by the way, that it's Chloe and Bruce. You would be forgiven for not knowing what's going on here.
Bruce is also a different actor.
It's a different guy, and you don't see enough of their faces to be able to actually clock who they are.
Yeah,
but
I didn't realize it was the main characters.
They are driving, I guess, a truckload of Bibles out of the warehouse.
3 truckloads, yeah.
And I
the
think it's
globalism police, they have their Bibles.
Right.
They have them in the big Bible warehouse.
Globo
They don't let you
Homo
take them.
has centralized contraband Bible storage.
Yes, which they are using for nefarious ends.
As we will find out later,
as we find out later. But I do think it's very funny that literally 3 truckloads of people have come to steal these Bibles. A single police car shows up, and they're immediately like, "Get out of here! We gotta go!" Because it's just 2 guys.
Well,
right?
but it turns out that those 2 Globo Homo men are very, very good at their jobs.
Guess you know I can execute you right now
Whoa!
if I want to. So who do you work for?
This guy's dying, by the way.
Thanks.
He said son of man, but you can't
You
tell.
can't tell.
Last chance. Who do you work for?
Good Almighty.
Wrong answer.
And so, yeah, I mean, would you deny your faith if held at gunpoint, Brian?
I mean, it's just not what he asked. You don't have to deny your faith and just say, "Oh, I'm working for the Tribulation Force."
Yeah, but Brian, would you deny God before man?
I'd deny God before God. That's right, motherfucker. Just try me.
I don't know. I feel like the guy was going to kill him either way.
Probably, yeah, I think so.
There was no way he was getting out of that one. So I would have gone down with something a little bit more badass than, you know, the Son of Man.
Son of Man is kind of badass. If you can actually say it. The actors who are dying in this movie, and this happens a couple times, you can't understand a fucking word that they're saying.
Nope.
This is a piece of evangelical Christianity that has been a thing for quite some time and became more of a thing in the 90s.
Jesus freaks.
Which is Jesus freaks, you know, being willing to be a martyr for the Lord, Cassie Bernal at Columbine.
Right.
And of course, with creeping Sharia right here in the United States of America, being willing to stand up against Islamofascism in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Muslims really hate it when you say that you love God.
The metaphors are so mixed. Again, this is the other thing, too, is that Left Behind as a book series, at least as far as I can understand it, is a very 90s way of looking at the end of the world.
Right. It's all the UN.
Even by 2005, they're having to adapt it to an entirely new world.
Yeah.
And it does not fit. It rejects it entirely.
After 9/11, we did see the rise of a new world order, and it was one led by the United States.
Yeah,
right.
Because it threatens the basic freedom of a capitalist society. Even though, like, the whole point of the UN, just as the League of Nations, is to basically do what America wants it to do.
Right.
It's to enforce the world order that America has control over.
I mean, you can look at this very concretely, obviously, with Gaza over and over and over and over again.
Right.
There have been these UN resolutions being like, hey, stop the genocide, please.
Right.
And every time it gets to the Security Council, the U.S. will veto it.
Well, okay, so here's my question. What are they scared of? Like, what are evangelicals scared of in the 90s that the UN will do? Like, what powers in the UN?
They straight up are scared that it will start the apocalypse going. Like they just straight up believe that the UN is going to make the Antichrist president.
But
of the world.
it's weird, though, because they also want the apocalypse to happen. They want to immanentize the eschaton. That's like...
They're breeding red heifers.
It's this very strange thing
with
where
their boners.
There really isn't a cohesive ideology to it at bottom.
Great.
It's just kind of what happens when you link this sense of like civic religion with a very strong sense of like America first above all else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's part of the base level problem with Left Behind, which is like, here is this book series where you have bad guys doing bad things and the good guys fighting against them, but the good guys can't actually stop it because they're not supposed to, because prophecy has to let it continue onward.
So many
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.